Cris actually started in the martial arts studio world, kicking asses, doing some Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Is that correct?
One of the skills that I developed, which allowed our jiu-jitsu school to grow very, very quickly, was digital marketing.
A lot of people are looking for some copy and paste script that's going to get you somebody in 5 minutes, but this is something you've been building for like literally 1,000 days in a row.
I've posted every single day, Monday through Friday.
I actually just interviewed Joey Coleman, who is the author of Never Lose.
Oh my God, I love his books.
Uh,
He's got the Bible on customer experience and his
yeah,
new book,
yeah,
Never Lose an Employee Again.
yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
All right, you beautiful, sexy, attractive motherfuckers. We are getting back for another amazing episode. I have Cris Rodriguez, and we were actually just talking a little bit off air. Um, Cris and I kind of share a little bit of the reluctant hero story where it's not like we woke up one day and said, I really want to start a marketing agency and blah, blah, blah. In fact, many ways, I was just trying to sell my own kind of like courses and stuff and learned SEO. And a lot of people, came and said, like, can you do this for me? And Cris actually started in the martial arts studio world, kicking asses, doing some Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Is that correct? Yeah,
That's right, BJJ.
choking motherfuckers out and being a badass in general. And recently just sold that school. And in the meantime, in that process, was kind of teaching other martial arts studios how to do the same kind of thing. And eventually this turned into Grow Pro Agency, which today has some of the biggest authority in the marketplace, has a number of JV partnerships, a book in it, a webinar, and you guys are doing some serious volume. You got 30 new clients a month. You're up to over 430 clients, and you guys have a staff of 30 right outside the strip club right there. So, firstly,
Thanks.
welcome for being here and doing this.
I appreciate Frankie. I'm excited for today.
So let's talk. I want to talk to you about the big idea because I'm a big believer that our business model, and really this is true of any service business. So you've probably been through this twice now, but service businesses, and this is true of lawyers, accountants, doctors, they're often like some of the easiest businesses to get started because you can just kind of sell your thing and your expertise. But man, like scale is a thing that trips people up in a lot of this. And often the side effect is when you begin to scale, the first thing that gets thrown out the window is the owner's sort of freedom, being like completely tethered 24/7 to this business. And that is not the case for you. So I'd love to hear some thoughts on just how you're able to kind of like, firstly, like build something that isn't a total prison for you, that you can actually have some sanity in a life that isn't just, you know, looking up meta ads and things like that. But share some of the thoughts on just kind of how you structured it and put it together so that you don't have like, this kind of virtual prison you've put together for yourself.
Yeah, so I mean, I learned everything not to do when I built my martial arts school. So I owned a BJJ and MMA school in Tampa, Florida for 11 years. I just sold it last month. One of the hardest decisions I ever made. It was my baby. It was a lifelong dream. I've been a martial artist since I was 8 years old. And you develop a lot of skills when you are building a business. And one of the skills that I developed, which allowed our jiu-jitsu school to grow very, very quickly, was digital marketing. The thought of like flyering parking lots with flyers in the, hot Florida heat, or being a PE teacher for the day or anything like that, was just like so unappealing. And I thought it was really dope that you could open up your laptop, launch some ads, and instantly have leads on flow. And I could do this from an air conditioned office. I learned so many lessons, particularly about how to be a better leader, because in my martial arts school in the beginning, I was a little bit of a tyrant, and you realize very quickly not a lot of people want to work for tyrants. So when I started GrowPro at the time, social media was, just becoming this huge thing. And I was posting pictures and videos of our martial arts school, and the mat is absolutely packed. And people are sending me messages like, how are you doing this? And I'm like, oh, we're just running Facebook ads and we're running Google ads. And their question was, well, can you show me how to do that? I have a degree in education from the University of South Florida, so I absolutely love teaching, whether it's on the mat, whether it's on a Zoom.
Yeah.
So I launched an 8-week marketing mastermind course and taught school owners how to run Facebook ads, how to run Google ads. And at the end of the 8 weeks, they were just like, I learned a lot, but I don't want to do this. I don't have the time. I don't have the patience. I don't want to keep up with the technology. And, I said no. And then I ran another 8 weeks. Same thing happened. And it wasn't until I think the third time that I ran this course that I finally said yes. And I said yes to 10 clients and instantly realized I just bought myself another job. I had built the martial arts school to a place where I didn't have to be on site. I was an off-site owner. I didn't have to be at every single class. I was only on the schedule a couple of times a week. And then when I took those first 10 clients on, I was like, oh shit, I'm starting all over again. And very, very quickly realized I needed to hire some help. And initially, I hired 1099 contractors. I had a completely remote team, brought on 4 ad account managers, and was kind of handling everything else by myself. And we grew that to about $30,000 a month. And then COVID hit. And obviously, martial arts schools, they got shut down. Fortunately, you can teach martial arts through Zoom, but we lost a third of our clientele when COVID hit. And that's when I started seeking out a mentor and finding a coaching group to help me get through. And while everybody went remote, I brought everybody in-house, and I got rid of my 1099 contractors, started hiring W-2 employees. And we started in a room that was no bigger than this. There were 6 of us. And ended up buying a building. We outgrew that building in about a year. So we bought this building, and, none of this would be possible without the team that I've built. I also decided to go the in-person route because I already knew how to lead an in-person team because I did that in my martial arts school, right? That's a brick and mortar. So I really didn't have any experience leading a big remote team. And, just with investment opportunities in commercial real estate kind of made sense for us to, put everybody here. We have shifted. We do a couple of work from home days a week because I found, finding really good talent, they do want some of that flexibility. But I think one of the absolute best ways to build a really, really strong culture is in person. And I know how to lead a team that's, in person.
Yeah. And I want to talk to you, that was the main reason we brought you on here so that you could share with our folks some of the team building, the systems, kind of the freeing yourself. But before we get there, you mentioned something before we went on air that, a lot of the kind of like growth that's been responsible is about really like building yourself up as an authority in your space. You mentioned the book in the webinars. I wonder if we could talk a little bit about that, because I don't think enough people talk about that. Like, I think there's this thing in our space where it reminds me of like guys trying to get laid at a bar at 2 a.m, where they think that there's some magic line they're going to say that's going to get the customers. And it's a lot of just like high value positioning and setting it up so people come to you and seek you out as the expert rather than you having to chase them down in their inbox. I wonder if you could just share a little bit of just high level of some of the things that are working for you that have been successful, really, that if anybody's willing to put in the work, they can also kind of model.
Yeah, I mean, I've always looked at this as a marathon and not a sprint. The authority play to me is a marathon. And full transparency, I had an unfair advantage because I was a school owner. I was my own avatar.
Yeah.
And when you hop on a sales call with another school owner, there's instant rapport there. There's instant trust built. And my school was my first case study, right? So there was the social proof built in. But from like a long play, when you think who are experts, right? If you classified somebody as an expert, usually they fall into 1 or 2 categories. Either they're an author or they're a speaker. So when I was really focusing on building authority, that's the route that I went. The root word of authority is author. So I wrote the book, The Best Known Dojo. Really books today can really be used as, kind of business cards. Most people probably won't even read it, but they'll put it on their shelf every time they walk by that shelf and they see that book. You are the person, you are the authority on that particular topic. So the book play was huge. And I also started a Facebook group. And to me, this was one of the highest kind of, highest leveraged activity that I could pull. and I started it about 3 years ago. We have over 3,000 martial arts school owners in it. And it's taken a lot of work. Like, there is no magic pill. There is no
Can I just add on that? That
over.
means you've been consistent with it for over 1,000 days. Like a lot of people are looking for some copy and paste script that's going to get you somebody in 5 minutes, but this is something you've been building for like literally 1,000 days in a row. You've got up and had to manage that community. So please continue.
Yeah, I mean, I've posted every single day, Monday through Friday, and I have never missed a day. And this is, content that I write from the heart. And like you said, it's the consistency of it that ultimately has paid off. So we've got the Facebook group, and that is anytime we're launching anything, all I have to do is put a post in that group because I've built that whole know, like, and trust factor. I'm really big on speaking. I think one of the really important things as agency owners is you've got to figure out what your zone of genius is. Some people, you put them on stage and they freeze. Other people, they really shine. So you got to figure out, like, what am I really, really good at? And I felt like that was a strong suit for me. So last year I did 16 speaking engagements all over the United States. And, I get asked often, like, well, what is the exact ROI of this trip? And I really look at it as time on brand. Even if I don't sign up one person, which I was able to do at least one sign up at every single one of these, but even if I didn't, the fact that I'm in front, the fact that I get content out of this and I can post that, hey, I'm on stage, which we already know that if somebody's on stage, they have some form of expertise. That time on brand ultimately allows me to be in somebody's mental Rolodex. While they might not be ready right now for ads, maybe they have another marketing company, but in the future, if they ever want to switch or they ever are ready for ads, I want to be the first person in their mental Rolodex. So that was really the route that I went in terms of authority. And a part of that Facebook group is making sure you're providing value. So every single month, I've done over 40, I think we're at 42. Every single month for the last 42 months, I've done a webinar. And it's not some regurgitated webinar with the same topic every single time. I have got a brand new topic every single month. But again, it falls aligned with the things that I feel like I'm really good at. And for some agency owners, maybe it's not speaking on stage. Maybe, you absolutely love just sitting in front of a computer and cold email is your jam. You just got to figure out what it is that you're really good at and go all in on that.
Yeah, 100%. I love what you just said there. I just want to share, I'm a big believer as well in the authority. Like, don't chase people down, bring them to you kind of pre-sold. And I'm sure you've experienced this as well as somebody who's done a lot of speaking myself, especially pre-COVID. I did a way more speaking than I do now, but it's not uncommon for somebody to see you speak on stage and then you get on their radar and then they may talk to one or two people and ask around about you. And then that person comes around a year or two later. And I don't think enough people treat this like a garden where you have to water it. And they're looking for this, like, what is the immediate ROI? And it's in reality, like, it's a marathon. The ROI may happen over 2 years. And if they had never saw you speak, they wouldn't become a client in 2 years from now. Like that may be the point where you get on their radar. And, obviously, like, as you mentioned, there's sometimes people who show up. I just wanted to add as well that we found podcasts to be really well for the expert kind of interview, anywhere you sort of interviewed. Magazines, you'd be amazed at how many industries have magazines that like desperately need you to write for them. And it's one of my first moves in the legal industry. It's like, I'm Frankie Finn, I write for Attorney at Law magazine, and it's like they need you way more than you realize. It's like it's super easy to get in those places. Being endorsed by somebody with some kind of credibility works as well, even though it's sort of old school TV if you can get on it. And then but as you mentioned, like the most two proven ones that aren't going anywhere are speaking, writing a book. And I would also throw in the webinars you're doing as well are a great little authority positioning because they're kind of like the digital version. So let's talk delivery side, because I think, once you cross, like, at least in my mind, maybe like 30, 40 clients, like all your problems become delivery, like at scale. Like none of your problems are how do I go get people, even though that's the thing, probably most interests people. But let's talk about what you've been able to build, because you've built a team. You've got some real great rock stars. I'm assuming you have some great systems and procedures. Let's start with kind of step one for you. Do you see the systems and the processes as step one, or do you see the hiring and getting the great people? Like, where do you kind of begin that journey?
Yeah, great question. I mean, I think a lot of businesses go through a cycle where in the beginning you can't really afford specialists, so you just hire generalists, right? And that's what I did in the beginning. My kind of barometer for hiring, I would literally ask myself, would I want to have lunch with this person? Like, do they have good enough character that I would want to sit down and have
Right.
lunch with them? That's how I determined whether or not I would hire them. And that really that got us to about 2 million a year, that kind of process. And around up to like 15 to 20 employees. But when you start having that type of revenue come in, you can now start shifting from hiring generalists to specialists. I mean, I didn't even ask the question, what do you love about marketing? When we first started hiring people, we hired like a mechanic, we hired like a truck driver. I was like, oh, they've got good character. I think they've got a lot of potential. Let me bring them on. Right. But once you start getting that client volume, you really want to start focusing on bringing in specialists, and you can typically, afford that. So our entire hiring process has changed. I truly want people that have been with the company for 2, 3+ years, when they see new hires, like I want them to feel like, man, I'm really grateful for working here because they're actually like a lot more skillful than I was when I first came on the team.
Yeah.
So we're really focused on kind of raising that bar with every single new hire, and we use that as the barometer now. Like, is this person better than the last hire?
Yeah.
And that has been really helpful in being able to deliver Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Google ads. We do social media management, Google business profile management, and then we have a call center with our concierge agent service to be able to deliver to 430 people every single month consistently. So for me, it started with the people, but there was a very specific moment in my life. I was down in Miami and I was actually speaking at an agency event. And the second I got off stage, I took myself straight to the hospital because I knew something was wrong. And I ended up having to stay down there and get surgery. And I was having a new hire start the next week. And I didn't want to miss their first day, right? You talked about like your agency being a prison. I didn't have the SOPs. I didn't have the training videos for them to sit down during their onboarding. And I was in such bad shape at the time. Our office was on a second story. I couldn't even walk up the stairs. So when this new hire came in, her name was Christina. Like she saw me and I looked I just had surgery like 3 days ago. And it was at that moment where I really went all in building playbooks and building, an online training platform. And we have hundreds of playbooks. I use a specific method called the playbook method to get these done. Everybody on the team is responsible for making these playbooks. I think that's a huge hurdle that a lot of owners think like, oh my gosh, there's these hundreds of processes. I don't have time to do it. Like, you shouldn't be the one doing it anyways. Like, I'm not the one doing that kind of frontline work. My team should. And we really used Dan Martell's concept of 10-80-10. Like, I'm going to give you 10% of the instructions. I'm going to let you know what I want the outcome to be. And then I'm passing the ball to you to build out the playbook. You're going to do the 80%, the bulk of it. And then you're going to pass it back. And I'm just going to QC it and audit it. And that was really the mindset of getting every single SOP hashed out in the company. And, another thing to remember with systems is that they're always evolving and always changing. It's never a box you just get to check off and say, oh, I never have to make another, playbook or SOP in my agency ever again.
Yeah.
And I think it's a big mindset shift that owners need to have, but you can't do everything. You shouldn't even want to do everything. You should have people on the team that can do the thing better than you can do, right? We offer Google ads. Like, if I had to launch a Google ads campaign, I really honestly wouldn't even know where to start. But that's
I love
because I'm
that.
fully sitting in my visionary role and I have hired specialists to be able to handle that for me.
Yeah. There's a massive amount of gems in what you just said that I'd kind of like to unpack a little bit for folks, and maybe we could go a little deeper. I love, firstly, the concept of like, I would call that just being hell yes about the people you hire. Like, a lot of times we hire people because you feel in this sort of scarcity, desperate position. I really need somebody to take this work out. And then you end up with these like lukewarm people that you wouldn't want to hang out with. You're not super stoked about being in your company. And then you just end up firing them, like, whether that happens in a week, a month, many months, years, whatever. But starting with people that you'd actually just want to hang out with, because almost always there's the hidden thing in there where you're gonna find attitudes and personalities that you're gonna vibe with that have like shared kind of values in that. So I think that's just super amazing. I also love that you started just with the kind of moldable generalist, like, hey, we don't have the, because a lot of times people think, oh, this would be so easy if I could just pay that person $10,000 a month who's really good at Facebook ads. But a lot of times when you're in the beginning scaling stages of your agency, like that option is just not on the table. Like you can't just write, you know, a $10,000 a month check to somebody who may be able to make all your problems go away. And oftentimes, there could be attitude conflicts and stuff like that. And obviously you mentioned going to Josh's event, our man Josh Nelson, and that's crazy. I had no idea that you had the whole hospitalization, but it says speaks to your perseverance and toughness that 3 days later out of surgery, you're onboarding new employees. That's kind of amazing in and of itself. Which I think speaks to something that I actually just interviewed Joey Coleman, who is the author of Never Lose.
Oh my God, I love his books. He's got the Bible on customer experience, and his new book,
Yeah.
Never Lose an Employee Again.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
It's a must read. And I think it's probably one of the most practical books I've ever read as well. Like you can immediately read it and go use it. Yet it's not like deep lessons that you have to like integrate. Like 5 minutes after reading the book, you can go do stuff. And obviously one of the things that he's big on, and obviously probably I'm sure we share a similar value, is like you want employees to feel like a welcome member of the family, not just like, all right, here's your desk, get to work, your hours are blah blah blah, your lunch break is blah blah blah. But like people that you actually want to create a culture, and then as you mentioned, which actually is a gem for me, is an up level in my thinking of just how much you can actually outsource the SOPs. For those of you guys who are not at that level and not familiar with that, stands for standard operating procedure, but it's really just like a set of instructions of like, here's how we do this kind of thing. And I love the idea that you get all the team involved in building those and creating those and refining those. Wonder if you could share a little bit on that piece, because I think that's something that's really next level, is like you mentioned, the playbook method for how you create these. Because I think, at least this is my experience, and yours may be different, but man, life is easier when you have the playbook before you hire somebody, because then it's like, come in, this is the essence of what you do. You can build on it, you can improve upon it, but we have like outline tasks and we know how to get these results, and we have repeatability and predictability in the machine. I'd love to hear just some of your thoughts on what is the playbook method? How do you guys kind of like use it in a real world kind of everyday situation?
Yeah. So, I mean, prior to hiring generalists, we had SOPs, right? But some are files on my computer, some are in the project management platform, some are checklists in the Google Drive. And there's a difference between having all of that out of your head and onto paper per se, and having an actual system of utilization. And that kind of shift was huge for us. We are an EOS company, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. We've been running EOS for 3+ years, and every quarter you schedule what's called rocks, and rocks are the big projects that are going to move the company forward to get you closer to your 1 year goal, but typically go on the back end due to the so much going on in the day to day. And when we wanted to really move from just having these random checklists to an actual system of utilization, I had to get buy-in from the team, right? Here I am, I'm going to put more work on your plate, and I'm not going to pay you any extra. That's what your salary is for. How do you get the buy-in? And you really need to start with the why. And for me, the way that I expressed it to my team to get them to write the hundreds of playbooks, I said, when you're out on vacation and we have to cover for you, do you want me calling you because we don't know how to do the thing that you handle and you're responsible for? Do you want us sending a text like, hey, I can't log into this thing? And their answer, of course, was like, no, we want to be left alone while we're on vacation. So that was a big unlock for them, because that gives them more freedom if we have everything that we need here in the office to be successful while they're out. And I offer an unlimited PTO policy. The kind of next aspect of this is, our first core value at GrowPro is continuous growth. We continuously grow for the company, client, and self. And I think most people want to work for a business that is growing, because if it's growing, there's more opportunity. And the way that I presented it, guys, if you're a rep and you want to, ultimately become a specialist, you're a specialist and you want to become a manager, you have to replace yourself You have to replace. And what's going to be the easiest, fastest way to get somebody up to speed? Having all of the systems and processes lined out that you need them to do. And all it did was take one person to raise their hand. So we presented that this was going to be our rock for the quarter. We listed out, I said, guys, I want you to think and categorize in your head, which our job descriptions are broken down to daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly responsibilities. I think it's important to kind of categorize those for people. And I said, what I want you to do is start with everything you have to do on a quarterly basis, do a mind dump. Then what are we doing on a monthly basis? Then what are you doing on a weekly? And what are you doing on a daily? And we just mind dumped it. And we put the departments together, social media department, you're together, paid ads, you're together, concierge, you're together, and we mind dumped it. And then from there, we took the processes, typically the daily processes are the ones that you're doing the most. And I said, who in your department is the best at this one process? And all it takes is one person to raise their hand and say, I'm going to own that process. I will take that playbook. And then you ask, okay, well, what about this one? And that's how we were able to really kind of get this rock. I mean, it was really like a boulder, almost like a mountain, and start moving it forward. And then it's now every single, quarter, we are updating playbooks depending on new processes. We host everything in a Google Drive. There are phenomenal platforms out there. Trainual is one, and we considered using it, but you have to pay per subscription per person. And it was going to cost a lot of money for me to have 30 logins for, everybody on the team. And I wanted a system that was simple. Like most people know how to access a Google Drive and Google Sheets and Google Docs. So we built it in there. We have a playbook kind of a resource guide and tracker. Every single playbook has a reference number with a link that automatically takes them to that. When we onboard new hires, those links are in their onboarding paperwork. And it was a huge project, but it's one of those things that once it's done, once the bulk is done, that's done. Now you're just, every time you're adding a new process, having to make a playbook. And you just have to start with getting the buy-in from your team, which means you have to, like, everybody's tuned in to what's in it for me, right? Well, what's in it for you? I don't have to bug you while you're on vacation. And this is going to open up new opportunities when you want to be promoted and we have to replace somebody in your current position.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. You know what I love especially is, the deeper idea behind that to me is something that you kind of touched on earlier, is that you want to be in your role as the visionary. And I see a stage that people go through a lot in the growth. And interestingly enough, I mentioned this is, even though it feels like a unique to digital marketing agencies, this is actually true of all service businesses. When I actually wrote about the 5 stages of agency growth, the way I learned about that is I sat in on masterminds and we talked about the 5 stages of growing a law firm. And then I went, aha, it's identical. It's like 95% the same. But there's a stage people go through, usually in like kind of like stage 2, sometimes even as far as stage 3, where the balancing the, hey, we're selling stuff, and hey, we have to fulfill on it, and hey, we're hiring people. And then somehow like that trinity of things makes it so that it's a constant, like, hey, we sell for a little while and now we're drowning in fulfillment. And so we totally stop selling. And then like, it almost always like kind of just oscillates between the two. And through kind of what you described is I hear you being able to stay in that visionary role and not necessarily have to get stuck in the weeds, but able to communicate visions to your team so that they're able to build those, so that, like you said, like SOPs, by the way, anybody who's been through it, it's awful. But when it's done, like, your life is exponentially easier. And so it's so worth doing. But the process is probably one of the most unfun things you've ever done. Step 1, do this. Step 2, log in here, screenshot there. So I love that, simple, just starting with why, like the power of that, of telling people why they want to build those things and how it's going to benefit them and how it's going to make their life easier, so that you actually get support in building these big projects. Because as you mentioned, and I've been guilty of this as well, but like thinking that you have to build all the SOPs yourself before you can bring somebody in. And then therefore you just have this mountain of like, okay, I got 10,000 processes for the next 6 months. Now where do I sign the suicide note right now? So talk to me a little bit about just your thoughts about like really owning that visionary role. Cause that's what I'm hearing, first and foremost, is that like you've recognized that's your biggest, most valuable place to be in the company, and like just really kind of owning that and being able to let go everything else that isn't that. I like
Yeah,
the
it's not easy. I'm a high D on the disc assessment. On the cultural index, I'm what's considered an architect, which an architect, only 1% of the population are architects. You can actually sit in the visionary position or in the integrator, which is EOS terminology,
yeah.
basically CEO or COO. And I can do both of those. And that's probably, one of the hardest things for me was really just letting go, right? And I think for a lot of agencies, letting go could be the hardest aspect of this. But you have to ask yourself, how did you get so good at doing that thing? Well, it's because you did it over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
How is your team going to get good? You've got to give them the reps. You've got to give them the at bats, and they're going to probably swing and miss often. But that's where you need to be as a coach. And I think oftentimes when delegation happens, right? Hey, I showed you how to do this thing. I gave you the playbook. Go do it. There's no follow back up. There's no meeting scheduled like, okay, how did that go? Give me some feedback. Where did you get stuck? And I really look at myself as a coach. And I think, having the martial arts background and being an instructor for so long, like I am here to coach my team up, and they're not going to do it at my level. I don't have the expectation of them doing it at 100% Chris's level, but can they do it at 80? Can they do it at 85? And then can I give them feedback to help them get a little bit higher? So you do have to relinquish control. I also, and I want to be completely transparent, I sit in the C. We don't have like C-suite. I don't think we're big enough. We're, a little over 3 million annual. So we don't like officially have a C-suite, but I sit in CEO and I'm also the CFO, right? So I do handle the finances. But if I asked a lot of the agency owners that are listening to this, do you have a job description for yourself? What do you think the answer is going to be?
Yeah, I think
I mean, most people don't, not the CEO, right?
yeah.
Oh, I've got it for my marketing assistant, but you don't have it for yourself. And I am very, very clear of what are my roles, what are my responsibilities, and how am I going to, time block that into my day to day so I stay in my lane. And it was a really cool moment. We were having our quarterly meeting and we were getting ready to commit to our rocks. And I said, hey guys, I'll take that rock. And one of my team members were like, Cris, we'd prefer you not to take that rock. And I was like, what do you mean? And, they had the guts to say, because you're going to be the bottleneck. We're going to be waiting on you because you have other things that you need to focus on. And that was a huge unlock moment, for me. But I have a job description for my visionary position, and it's broken down. These are my daily responsibilities, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and I have it for the finance position as well. And I think some of the hardest, aspects of being the CEO is learning how to let go and stay in your lane and trust your people and give them the opportunity for the at-bats, because that's how you got good at it. That's how they're going to get good at it.
Yeah.
But don't just delegate and let go. You got to check back in and you got to coach them up.
Yeah, I love it. As you go through the different up levels in this business, I find you constantly are refaced with that. It would just be easier to do it myself thought, and have to like learn to ignore that and know that you can actually get more done through other people, through teams and systems. But it comes back up again and again at every level where you think, you know what, it'd just be easier if I just did this myself. And then, that's the kiss of death right there. Just to be respectful of your time, I'd love to call it a show right here. I love how you guys have put EOS as well through your system. Shout out, by the way, for those of you guys who are interested, our man Lynn Askin, who's really good at helping integrate EOS. For those of you guys who are interested and are familiar with the book by Gino Wickman. Let's talk about, for anybody who's interested, where do they get more info on you? And how can we collaborate with you? How can you help our fine folks?
Yeah, I mean, I don't do any coaching for agencies like officially or anything like that. But if you ever just want to jam, you go to growproagency.com. All of my webinars are on the website as well. So if you ever want to just see like what are the different topics, how is she presenting it, feel free to R&D, which most people think research and development. It's rob and deploy. So go ahead, rob and deploy, take away. Yeah, I think I'm in your Facebook group as well. So if anybody wants to connect, shoot me a Facebook message. Happy to help in any way. I truly, believe you can have anything in this world that you want as long as you help other people. Famous Zig Ziglar quote, and happy to help in any way that I can.
Yeah, love it. We appreciate you coming on here and doing this. I know you got so much awesome stuff to share, and you're obviously, you're still growing and figuring that journey out. But I love what you guys have put together. And yeah, rob and deploy, please, because the best stuff, by the way, I maintain this is all from other industries. I had this talk with Jay Abraham where he's like, everybody thinks I'm so smart. I just like I'm in 5 different industries. I see what 2 of them are doing that they use every day. And then I notice the other 3 aren't doing it. And I go, if we took this idea from over here and used it, it probably would work. And lo and behold, he
100%.
gets credit for all this kind of business up leveling, which is, just rob and deploy. So appreciate you again for doing this.
Thanks for having me, Frankie.
Guys, if you like this video, you're also going to want to grab some free bonuses, which you can get at our website, Beyond Agency Profits. To make it easy for you, I've put the links to it in the description of this video, as well as pinned in the top comment. And we've got a couple of awesome things. This is what you'll get after you sign up. You get some of our best training, how we're closing clients over Loom videos, how we sometimes sign clients that is not a misprint for under $5 US, how to demonstrate your value in like amazing ways, trainings, how to have your clients write the best copy of your life, how we're closing without phone calls, campaigns that we've generated for clients that have done over $100,000, as well as scripts you can use to get conversations going with clients in under 10 minutes. All you got to simply do is go there, enter your name and email address, and then this is what you'll see on the other side. So if that's interesting to you, make sure to click the links below, and I will see you on the other side.